Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond Dope. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the serenity prayer. As always, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Today's reading. Though each of us defines emotional balance a little differently, all of us must find it. Emotional balance can mean finding and maintaining a positive outlook on life, regardless of what might be happening around us. To some, it might mean an understanding of our emotions that allows us to respond, not react to our feelings. It can mean that we experience our feelings as intensely as we can, while also moderating their excessive expression. Emotional balance comes from practice in prayer and meditation. We get quiet, sharing our thoughts, hopes, and concerns with the God of our understanding. Then we listen for guidance, awaiting the power to act on that direction. Eventually, our skills in maintaining near balance get better. And while the up and down emotional swings we used to experience begin to settle, we develop an ability to let others feel their feelings. We have no need to judge them, and we fully embrace our own personal range of emotions. Just for today, through regular prayer and meditation, I will discover what emotional balance means to me. So, one of my first thoughts when I hear this reading is being very new to sobriety. The whole balance of emotions. When you're first out there, you're feeling everything all at once. We've talked about that before. You're just fresh, very, very fresh, and you're feeling everything all at once. I write all these little notes in my AA book next to these readings, and one of the that just helps me. That way I can go back and look at what I was thinking maybe last time I read this. And one of the things that I wrote was have conversations. When I got out of rehab, the time that I wrote this, I was assigned to go to an IOP, and I was really nervous and shy, and that's not my nature at all, so once you get in those rooms and start opening up and actually having conversations with people, it helps a lot, and don't be, I used to be one of those people that would cut people off to try to make my point, and I hated that. Like, when I look back on that, I absolutely hated that about myself, because I wasn't learning anything. I wasn't even listening to what the other person was saying sometimes, and I think that's normal. We all can do that sometimes. We all want to get out our next thought, whether it be because we think it's the most important thought in the room or because we're afraid we're going to forget it. But talking to each other isn't enough. We have to listen to each other too, right? The other thing that I wrote down is allow yourself to feel your emotions, all of them. Grieve, be happy, etc. A lot of the times when I was sober or getting sober or in rehab or in detox or whatever, I was just starting to feel a lot of emotions that I had been masking with my drug use, which I think is a pretty common theme, whether it's, your dog dying or your grandma dying, or, maybe you got divorced, or just anything. We use substances to mask the emotions that we have from those feelings. And once we get sober again, we're feeling them all at once. And what I did was I kept a journal, and I kind of stayed on topic with my emotions, if that if that makes sense. I would allow myself like a week to talk to journal about a certain topic, and for that week I would be feeling those emotions of that topic, and I would move on from there. Now that sounds great. Obviously you're not going to control your emotions that well in the beginning, but it gave me a format of how to try to wrangle and deal with these emotions. Okay, so we had a few questions that got emailed in. This one comes from AB, 29-year-old male. What was your drug of choice? That's a funny question to me. My drug of choice was really anything I could get my hands on. I started with alcohol, and it went up from there to marijuana, to pills, to Oxycontin, to heroin, crack, coke, acid, mushrooms. And for me, the acid and the mushrooms and stuff like that was never a problem. It was never like addicting. I was just always experimenting. And I'm sure we'll get more into some of that stuff as we continue on with the story. You'll learn a little more about when I did what and whatnot. But pretty much anything I could get addicted to, anything that had addictive properties and whatnot, I did my best to get addicted to that, unfortunately. Our next question comes from Kelly, 34, female. How did you personally handle situations of apologizing or making amends to people you screwed over in addiction? So there's no perfect answer here. Me personally, though, I reached out to them any way I could. If the situation was appropriate, I would just call them and have a conversation. But in most cases, I'm always better writing to somebody, or maybe sending like a Facebook message or something like that, just to see if they're open to talking first, or maybe open to getting a coffee, and so I could talk to them face to face, because I feel like a lot of us really screwed some people over, and I did, and I was no different. I was really terrible to some people really close to me, and in the end, some of them really don't want anything to do with you at the end. They'll forgive you, but it's not like anything is going to ever go back to how it was, which is hard, which is more emotions to deal with, which is you it's easy to beat yourself up over stuff like that. One thing I will say is, don't try to apologize to people too soon. Let them see that you're working on yourself. Let them see that you're, act like I know it's cliche, but actions speak louder than words, right? And you want them to see that you're making the effort to better your life, and then have that conversation with them, because they'll be much more responsive. Um, they'll be much more likely to want to sit down with you and want to have that conversation once they believe that you're making the steps to turn your life around. I just want to say real quick, thank you guys so much for sending in some questions. Answering them and talking about them and working through them has been such an awesome part of my day. So please, please, please keep them coming. Okay, so last week we left off the story talking about sports betting, poker, and building an over-under table when I was young, all kinds of crazy stuff. Which brings me to just a quick point. What we thought cool was when we were young, right? When we were young, our whole image of what cool is so distorted and backwards. This is another one of those things that plays right into why we become addicted, why we are the way we are, right? To this day, people see Scarface or Blow or American Gangster and think that's awesome. that's the life, right? I mean, easy money. I'll just stop when I have all that money and not make all those mistakes that everyone makes in the movies. I mean, it sounds good, but what sounds good and what ends up happening are two totally different things. And we all take it too far. I don't know what that's about. It's human nature. We just can't stop. When we're young, we really need that guidance more than anything. Those role model figures, because we're so easily influenced and we think all the wrong shit is cool. I mean, so it could be a toxic combination to turning good kids into adults, or, young people with some serious issues. Okay, so after high school, I began dating this girl, Amber, that I knew. Um, we went to school together and had been friends for a long time. Honestly, it was the perfect relationship. Um, we had everything in common. We could just lay around and talk to each other all day, or whatever one of us suggested, the other one was down to do. I mean, we did everything together. We loved being around each other, and we had fun all the time. She worked as a nanny for a family in Shaker Heights and would be at work from 7 to like 4 in the afternoon. I had a few different jobs out of high school. The one that probably fit me the best was delivering office products for a company out of Twinsburg. I had a company van, and my route only took about 4 or 5 hours, sometimes less. So I could still sell pot and pills whenever I got a phone call. We drank on the weekends, really. That was it. Every once in a while, we would do like ecstasy or something on the weekends. It wasn't anything that was too crazy. I mean, it probably sounds crazy to a lot of you, but looking back on my life, that was not a crazy time in my life. That was a great time in my life when I had everything together. Believe it or not, the problem came by how we started dealing with hangovers. We, rather than be hungover, we would buy Percocets or Vicodin, and the next day after we went out all night, we would pop a couple of those and have a movie day, right? Lay around, do nothing, and recuperate. You start to notice things like, taking two of those is not making me feel the same way that it used to make me feel, right? Or on certain days, I'd be like, I'm not taking these. I've been taking too many of them, right? And so we just wouldn't take them. And I remember the first time we went into withdrawal together. We thought that we were sick, like we thought we had the flu or something, and we just manned up. We didn't know that. I mean, I think at the time, if we knew that pills would have made us better, we would have gobbled those things up, right? But we didn't really know what withdrawal was. I mean, this was in 2006, right? So I mean, we didn't have. I mean, this sounds so stupid now, right? But we had no idea what withdrawal was. They don't talk about that when they come in, the dare officers or the great officers or whatever program your school had to talk about drugs and drug abuse and all that. We didn't know what withdrawals were, because we had never experienced them, and I think at the time a lot of our friends didn't experience them either. I mean, it wasn't for months that I had heard the term dope sick. When we heard it though, and figured out that that's what was going on, we were both terrified. I mean, eh, I never wanted to feel that again, but at the same time, we hadn't been doing these pills now for a long time. So it's in your head that, maybe those two pills is going to make you feel that same way that you used to feel, right? Driving to work one morning, Amber called me. She missed her period and was concerned. She told me that she was going to go get a test earlier, and during this phone call, she had told me that she had taken it and that she was pregnant. I told her I'd be right there. I turned around on the highway and we met at Chris's restaurant in Maple Heights, Ohio. We had breakfast and we talked about it. We were both on the same page as always. There wasn't a doubt in either of our minds. We were having a baby. People said their opinions, and eventually everyone was on board. Even if they weren't, we were doing this thing, right? Amber was the epitome of sobriety when she was pregnant. She still smoked cigarettes. She had tried to quit a few different times during her pregnancy, but that was it. And looking back on it, I still am extremely proud of her just for how she handled the whole situation. I was young and stupid. I would drink a lot on the weekends still. But worse than that, I would still use Percocets to deal with hangovers. I got addicted to them quick at times. It was hard to see the progression. I was still buying a lot of them for other people. Sometimes, 200-300 of them a week. I had a few people that I would trade, a half a pound for perks. The one guy, it would be like half a pound was like, say, $800, and he would give me perks for $2 each, right? That's a lot of Percocets. And so it was difficult to navigate because, she knew that I still had to do this to make money, but she didn't want me to be taking them. So it created this whole situation, right, where they were still around me all the time, and it was, in my opinion, back then, it was easier to lie to her than it was to actually deal with my problem. But the guy that I got him from, he was this landscaper out in Medina County, introduced to me by my friend's stepdad, Danny. Danny introduced me to so many older customers like this. And, these were guys when I was 20, they were probably like 40 or 50. And, these guys would buy lots of weed, and they had so many pills all the time. Back then, doctors were much more lenient, especially with old people. I remember this guy telling me when he ran out, the doctor would call in more under his father or his wife's name. The only downfall was sometimes he would have to pay cash because, it was before the insurance would cover it. But, coming from someone my age, if someone my age had told me this, I would have been a little skeptical. But this was an older guy, and, I saw the bottles. They all had different first names, but the same last name on it. This guy was telling the truth. And having 4 or 5 connections like this one was normal back then. The first half of Amber's pregnancy, I was stupid. I was selfish. I was taking too many pills. I wasn't there for her like I should have been. It got really bad between us. We would fight a lot, and we would go back and forth. If I would tell her that I was going to stop, which would turn into me sneaking pills when she wasn't looking. That was my first time when I thought, wow, you're about to have a kid, you're in love with this woman, but you still need these? What's going on? You really have a problem, when you're hiding Percocets in where the battery's supposed to be in your alarm clock so your pregnant girlfriend doesn't find them. I mean, I think it's time to admit that you had a problem, right? And I wish to God that that was my rock bottom, but that was not my rock bottom. That wasn't even close. I wouldn't hit rock bottom for years. But at that time in my life, for 7 to 10 days, I detoxed at home. I came clean about everything. Started getting my head clear. It was hard at first, but it was a really good time. We were doing it together. She was there for me. She was helping me through it. And we had each other, and we got through it. I still smoked a lot of pot, but I wasn't going out drinking. I wasn't doing any drugs. I think I put on like 70 pounds during the last 5 months of her pregnancy. I mean, it was crazy. I'm not exaggerating. All we did was go out to eat and go to the movies. I mean, she was on bed rest for the last 3 months of her pregnancy, so there wasn't much that we could do. We watched a lot of movies. We ate a lot of food. You're listening to Beyond Dope. New episodes available every Friday. To email us with questions or comments, please reach out to us at beyonddopepodcast@gmail.com. Around the time my child was born at the end of 2007, I had 3 people betting pretty large sums of money every football and basketball season. 2 of them paid in cash, which during the season and depending on the bettor could be an extra $5,000 a month, sometimes more, sometimes just a couple $100. I mean, it was always different. The other was a friend of mine's father who opted to pay weekly in OxyContin, Percocets, and Valium. We're going to stop the story there for today, and I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody who emailed in any questions or showed support in any way. I mean, it's been so great, just the feedback and the questions and the support that I've seen. And I just want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart, truly. This has been getting everything that I've written in my journals out on a podcast has been an experience. It's been nerve-wracking at times. I've been extremely anxious. It's all brand new to me. This is all brand new. I've never done this before, so we're gonna catch all the feels together. And some of this stuff I never really wanted to say out loud, and that could be hopefully freeing in itself. I know whenever I do or have done an AA lead, it was very freeing, and the conversations during and after were fantastic. But the nervousness and the anxiety of it all is what makes the support and the emails that much more appreciated. So if you haven't, please reach out to us, beyonddopepodcast@gmail.com. And this is where I leave you. Guys, it's been awesome. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. See you next time.